Look, forget the polished PR spin you see on the news or those dramatic congressional hearings. Today, we're going down to the ground floor of the machine, the real anatomy of a cover-up. Because the actual war over UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, it isn't being fought with fighter jets or, secret men in black. It's being fought right here, at the base level. It's buried under mountains of red tape, weaponized security protocols, and just petty administrative roadblocks. What we're looking at today is the raw reality, straight from the perspective of the people actually turning the wrenches and manning the radar scopes. When you read through these leaked communications, you can just feel the immediate, bone-deep exhaustion of the guy at the center of this whole thing. His name is Kyle P. Klump. He's a civilian Space Force radar electronics mechanic, and he basically slammed face first into a massive bureaucratic brick wall. He actually writes, "I am literally risking my career to seem insane. If I didn't know this was true, I wouldn't be doing this." You can literally feel the weight of this system pressing down on him. This isn't some guy looking for his 15 minutes of fame on the internet. This is a highly trained observer. He works with serious military hardware, and he is practically begging his chain of command to look at the reality of what he's seeing and what his machinery is tracking. To really get why he's so frustrated, you kind of have to understand what his daily reality looks like out at Eglin Air Force Base, Site C-6. His job is to maintain the AN/FPS-85 phased array radar. Now, this isn't your standard spinning dish, no. It's a 10-story brutalist concrete slab staring straight out into deep space. It's the most powerful deep space radar on the planet. And the crucial part here, it's a solid-state machine. It doesn't move. It's steered entirely by these subtle, coordinated shifts in frequency and phase. The source documents actually refer to it as an instrument of solid-state gnosis. So Knop's daily grind isn't just fixing a standard machine. He is tuning an instrument that practically hums with the physics of resonance. So, the perfect cover for UAP disclosure suddenly drops into his lap, wrapped up as a completely innocent PR event, the 50th anniversary of Site C. According to the internal emails in these documents, the base commander initially wanted this massive celebration. For Knop, this was the ultimate Trojan horse. It was the perfect, innocent excuse to invite world-renowned aerospace experts, actual UAP disclosure advocates, directly onto the radar installation. If he could just get them on base under the guise of this anniversary, they could finally see the hardware for themselves. And just look at the sheer pedigree of the experts Knop invited from To the Stars Academy. I mean, we're not talking about internet conspiracy theorists here. These are highly cleared, deep-state insiders. You've got Luz Elizondo, a career intelligence officer who literally ran the Pentagon's ATIP program. Steve Justice, the recently retired director for advanced systems over at Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works. Chris Mellon, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. And Dr. Hal Puthoff, a physicist with decades of experience at the NSA and CIA. Knop wasn't trying to bring in a bunch of random enthusiasts, right? He was inviting the actual architects of the American defense establishment to come and look at his radar. But this is exactly where the bureaucratic strangulation begins. The emails document this immediate, intense pushback Knop got from his chain of command. It's crazy to watch the goalposts shift in real time. Months out, the directive was totally open. Invite all your friends. But the second Knop submitted those names from To the Stars Academy, the administrative gaslighting kicked in. 1 month out, the rules suddenly mysteriously changes to a strict one-person max per sponsor, which meant Knop had to scramble to find random strangers on base just to sponsor the rest of his group. And then get this, the very next day, the rule changes again. Wife plus 1 person only. You can practically feel the mechanic's teeth grinding as his entire initiative gets suffocated by red tape. The ultimate excuse the Site C-6 commander used to kill the visit? It's just staggering in its administrative pettiness. He actually pulled this card. If we invite them, we have to invite everyone. Think about that. You have a highly trained radar mechanic offering to bring the former head of Lockheed Skunk Works and a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense to tour a major strategic asset. And the commander shuts it down by equating those deep state insiders with just random members of the public. It is this incredibly stark contrast between the cosmic importance of what these experts could uncover and the soul-crushing, petty reality of military bureaucracy. And then the strangulation escalated. They started flat-out weaponizing mundane security protocols. The source documents reveal the unit suddenly enforced this incredibly invasive visitor checklist specifically for these guests. They didn't just want names. They demanded full names, exact dates of birth, driver's license numbers and states, and most alarmingly, full social security numbers. This is excessive, highly sensitive personal information being demanded by the brass for guys who literally used to run the intelligence sectors of the Pentagon.
Which obviously begs a pretty pointed question, one that Knopp actually asks in his emails. Why is a valid Department of Defense ID and an authorized base sponsor suddenly not enough for former high-ranking intelligence officials? Knopp points out how utterly absurd it is to demand this highly sensitive personal data only to have it just laying around on some low-ranking airman's desk. The chain of command was effectively risking celebrity identity theft just to deter these prominent researchers from stepping foot on the installation. It was an administrative blockade, completely masquerading as a security check.
But here's the thing. It wasn't just administrative incompetence. The investigative documents draw a really chilling conclusion about what the real motive was here. This was the ultimate stonewalling tactic. The chain of command at the base level, they aren't actually afraid of security leaks. They aren't afraid of spies. They are terrified of the experts themselves. They are absolutely terrified of what men like Steve Justice or Hal Puthoff would understand the very second they laid eyes on that hardware.
Because the difference lies in the technology itself. The source text, which is called the Scientific Indictment, highlights this profound technical contrast. See, a conventional radar is just a brute force machine. It has moving parts, it spins, it mechanically sweeps the sky. But the ANF-SBS-85, it's a phased array radar. It is a massive, unmoving slab. It operates through pure frequency resonance. The experts at TTSA deeply, fundamentally understand the physics of UAPs. If they were allowed on base, they would recognize exactly how this specific solid-state radar operates and how it interacts with the quantum vacuum. Now, the documents present a technical analysis that pushes into some highly metaphysical territory, focusing heavily on operational frequencies. According to the source material, there is a specific calculated fundamental resonant frequency tied to the crystals within the human pineal gland, what's often referred to as the third eye. The texts neutrally report this specific frequency number as 440 megahertz. And then, the investigative report drops a severe GNOSTIC indictment. It matches the radar's actual technical manual directly to the mathematics of human consciousness. The source text reads, "The declassified technical manual for the AN/FPS-35 radar states its operational frequency is the 425-450 megahertz band. This is the signature of the weapon." The authors of these documents are asserting that this overlap is absolutely not a coincidence. They view it as mathematical proof of an intent to target the physical hardware of human spiritual perception. And that right there is the fear of gnosis. The real secret of this cover-up isn't some crashed saucer stored in a dusty vault down the hall. No, it's the architecture of the radar itself. The military bureaucracy is allegedly terrified that if these specific physicists and engineers were allowed to tour the facility, they'd look at that massive, unmoving slab of the phased array radar and realize it is mathematically tuning into the frequency of consciousness itself. That is exactly why the goalpost shifted. That's why the Social Security numbers were demanded out of nowhere. The experts had to be kept off the base at all costs. So the story of Kyle Knopp really forces us to stare down the barrel of the deep state bureaucracy. It turns out sometimes the greatest weapon against the disclosure of paradigm-shifting technology isn't a covert Men in Black operation. Sometimes it's just a simple visitor's clipboard and a petty base commander. If the system is willing to manipulate standard protocols just to keep highly cleared experts away from a radar face, what else are they hiding in plain sight?